This is the RF 24-70mm f2.8 lens, and it has ruined everything for me. It's not what you think though. Let me explain. So recently a local wedding photographer reached out to me and needed help with the wedding. She was doing the photos, but she needed somebody to do the video. Well, that's where I came along. Now me though, I only have two main lenses that I use. One of those being the RF 15-35, which is actually what I'm filming on right now, and my other lens is the RF 70-200, which by the way is just such a magnificent lens. It's beautiful, it gives you beautiful results. So here's my problem though. The 15-35, it's too wide, and even at 35mm, it doesn't get you close enough, especially during weddings. Now the 70-200, it does a lot better because it's giving you those longer focal lengths, but you also have a problem because you have to be super far away all the time. So I needed something in between, and well, that's where we landed on the RF 24-70mm f2.8 lens. Now that you know a little bit of the backstory, let's talk about what I like on this lens, what I don't like, and why it's ruined everything for me. Versatility. Number one reason why I like this lens is because I don't have to swap out my gear. I can get a wide shot, I can get a medium shot, and then I can get a telephoto shot. And especially with situations like weddings where things are fast and furious, you need to be able to switch focal lengths pretty quickly, and unfortunately a 15-35 won't give you that flexibility. Or I would even argue that a prime, because you're gonna have to get super close to subjects and you don't always want to get super close. So this lens is literally good at getting all of those shots. Now I would also argue that this is almost the perfect lens for photography. And the only reason I say that is because I typically like longer focal lengths, which I love using my 70-200. As we all know, this only goes to 70mm, which is still really, really good, and it's probably perfect for you, but I'm a big fan of those longer focal lengths. But I will say though, that I do believe, and I believe strongly, that this is the perfect lens for making films. So if you're shooting that wedding, or if you're creating YouTube content, literally everything in this one piece of glass. 82mm thread size. So a small little detail, but this shares the exact same thread size as my 15-35 that I'm filming on right now, which might not seem like a big deal, but whenever it comes to adding filters to your lenses, like a mist filter or a neutral density filter, having one filter that's all the same size is really, really nice, because I can easily take this mist filter I have on my 15-35 right now and swap it here to the 24-70 without any sort of step up rings or step down rings, which is just really, really nice. Image stabilization. Now, image stabilization is really good whenever it comes to photography because it helps you get really sharp photos in really low shutter speeds and while you're shooting handheld, which really comes in handy whenever you're doing like a lot of night photography. Now, I don't do that, but where I do find a lot of usefulness out of image stabilization is actually whenever I am filming events like weddings. So, in fact, here's actually some examples of some clips that I got recently at the wedding I mentioned earlier. Oh, and by the way, this was all handheld footage. It's actually really incredible how stable some of these shots were with it just all being handheld. I was very impressed. Last but not least, everybody's favorite thing to talk about, bokeh. Bokeh, bokeh, bokeh. I think I'm saying it right. Bokeh? Bokeh. Anyways, this lens is a f2.8, which a lot of people would be like, no, we need something like 1.4, 1.2 to get more of that bokeh in the background. Look, I completely agree, but for f2.8, this gives you really, really good results. Here are actually some images that I've recently taken of a senior photo shoot and also of a wedding. And I would argue that that looks pretty great. Sure, it's not gonna have as much bokeh as a 50mm f1.2 or 1.4, but it still gives you really, really good results. And again, you get all that versatility in this one lens. All right, let's talk about the tough stuff now. First thing on my list is going to be the price tag. Unfortunately, you know, it's $23.99. It's a very, very expensive lens. And to be honest, I got it for $20.99 and I had some Amazon credit, so I got it a little bit cheaper. But I don't know, it always says the price is $23.99, but it's always on sale for $20.99, so I don't really know what the real price is, and I'm not keeping tabs or anything on it, but I feel like I always see it at $20.99. So what's the real price? And I'll tell you right now, if I had control over that, I would definitely give you a discount because it's really expensive. Focal lengths. So I actually mentioned this earlier, but I wish that I can go past 70 millimeters because I really do love my 70 to 200. And if you haven't seen what the 70 to 200 can produce, here's some examples. And I can honestly say that I've gotten some of my best photos with that lens. So being limited to 70, and I know it sounds crazy, right? Limited, because you literally have as wide as 24 all the way to 70. That sounds crazy. But I do somewhat feel limited, but that's just because I was so used to always using my 70 to 200 for portraits or even landscapes. Now it's time I tell you the truth on why this lens has ruined everything for me. And it goes back to something that I really enjoy about this, and it's the versatility. I don't find myself often reaching for my 15 to 35 or my 70 to 200 as often as I did back then. And now this lens is literally glued on to my camera body most of the time. In a way, my other lenses are kind of gathering some dust. But overall, it's a fantastic lens, but be aware that if you do purchase it, you're not going to be using your other gear as often. Oh, and by the way, I think YouTube wants to recommend this next video to you. So go ahead and check it out and let me know what you think.